Hello guys, welcome back. This is RandoGEEK. Alright, so we have another update here regarding the battle between Dish and T-Mobile over the 800 megahertz of spectrum. The article is from Fierce Wireless. The link will be down below in the description for you guys. But we're just going to go over some of the key points here. We pretty much know the scenario here. We know what's been going on with T-Mobile and Dish. This has been going on for quite some time now. And this is going to be interesting to see what happens. Either way, the consequences for one of these carriers is not going to be good. So let's read a little bit about this article here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. But so Dish Network last week, they're saying defended its request for more time to buy 800 megahertz of spectrum from T-Mobile. So they told the Washington, D.C. court that it boils down to the final judgment the court approved back in 2020. They're saying which was all about ensuring a competitive U.S. wireless market. So the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia approved T-Mobile's merger with Sprint with conditions set forth in the final judgment, including that Dish becomes a new fourth facilities-based service provider. So the Department of Justice, which is the DOJ, required that T-Mobile take certain steps to make all happen, including this divestiture of 800 megahertz licenses to Dish. So Dish originally was supposed to exercise its option to purchase the spectrum by June 30th of 2023, but they've already received an extension. It's now seeking another 10-month extension because it doesn't have what they're saying is $3.6 billion on hand to buy this. So presumably it will be on a better financial footing by June 30th, 2024. They're saying thanks to its planned merger with EchoStar, a distribution agreement with Amazon, and other device and distribution partnerships. So after Dish on August 17th filed for more time, T-Mobile responded the following week with its opposition. Part of T-Mobile's argument rests on the notion that Dish can't claim hardship or difficulty as grounds for modifying the final judgment, and that rising interest rates, whatever their cause, have always been a known risk of financing. So Dish seized on that, telling the court that T-Mobile's cavalier attitude toward unprecedented interest rate hikes, notwithstanding the global financial turbulence resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic and a war in Europe, was certainly not foreseeable by Dish when the division commenced this action in mid-2019. But those events have seriously impaired Dish's ability to close the purchase of the 800 megahertz spectrum licenses in the near term. So Dish also asserted that T-Mobile is acting like the court should review Dish's request as something akin to an ordinary commercial dispute, when in fact the court should be concerned about the underlying goal of the final judgment, which is to preserve competition. So T-Mobile is now the largest wireless carrier in the US market by market capitalization, yet it complained to the court about the expenses it will incur if it has to hold on to the 800 megahertz licenses for another 10 months. So according to T-Mobile, the additional time will cost at least $215.7 million. And if Dish ultimately doesn't purchase the spectrum, the value of those licenses at action may be reduced because the licenses begin expiring in March of 2028. So Dish countered by saying T-Mobile was permitted to conduct a highly profitable acquisition of Sprint, and the fact that the divestiture may cost T-Mobile more money than it anticipated is trumped by the final judgment's pro-competitive goals. So Charlie Egan, which is Dish's chairman, they're saying that he went on to say that the 800 megahertz of spectrum was just nice to have rather than a must. Now he's backpedaling, and he's saying that Dish said those statements were cherry-picked from investor calls and not representative of Dish's sentiment that the 800 megahertz spectrum is competitively important. So the 800 megahertz frequencies are instrumental, he says, to reducing Dish's marginal cost. They will help avoid network congestion, a key driver of costs. All right. So if the 800 megahertz licenses were to go to another buyer, Dish would not be able to simply buy other low band and uplink spectrum as its convenience, according to Dish. All right. So, we talked last time about Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company. They've expressed interest in acquiring the 800 megahertz. along with at least another company or so. This is why T-Mobile wants to offload it. They have other competitors that want it. Dish is taking too long. So the question is, right? I think everybody is just asking the same question: who's right, who's wrong? So Dish is not wrong in the fact that T-Mobile got away with murder by purchasing Sprint. They got a real large upper hand over all the carriers as far as building out that 5G network. They got a massive head start, right? They got so much spectrum, which is why they're ahead as far as deployments in the 5G, in 5G networks, right? They got it out there because they have the most spectrum. So Dish isn't wrong about that. Now, to go ahead and speak for T-Mobile and the U.S. court to say that that's just part of business, that, because we can't simply afford to, buy the 800 megahertz, that's not our problem, that T-Mobile has to pay more, that's part of, the deal, that's not fair. T-Mobile shouldn't have to hold their hand forever. See, when Dish stepped up, and I like Dish, guys, so, I'm not ragging on Dish, but I'm playing it fair. I think T-Mobile was spoiled with getting Sprint, and they didn't really hold up their end of the bargain with purchasing Sprint either. A lot of layoffs. Yes, they did 5G, a lot of 5G deployments, but, there's still some fine tuning that needs to be done with the network, right? So beyond that, when Dish decided they wanted to be a player and be the fourth big carrier in wireless, they really should have put a little bit more thought into it, because, it cost a lot of money. And, that's the big thing here with them. They're saying that they just don't have the money. Now, they're saying within 10 months, they anticipate to have it. Very possible. Okay. They'd still probably be cutting it close. Now, I'd like to see Dish be that fourth carrier. I'd like to see Dish do better and deploy native everywhere. So, we have that fourth carrier, right? And that service as an option. But, in defense of T-Mobile, if they do not come through, T-Mobile would have wasted all that money and then would lose even more money, because the value of the licenses, they're saying, would deplete, would be of less value. So you can't blame T-Mobile for trying to, protect itself. That's a lot of money to lose, $215.7 million. T-Mobile needs that money for their own business. They have additional deployments, additional network tuning. They have many other things that they could be doing with that, marketing, So their goal is to make money, not waste money. And especially because Dish doesn't have the money to purchase, and they don't want to let it go. Now, obviously, we know what happens if Dish lets it go. So we can see why they don't want to let it go. They will be in a massive amount of trouble, because they need that 800 megahertz to complete their build out, which they have a requirement to do. So they will be pretty much axed. If I don't know how they would be able to make it if they lose these licenses. So I don't know how this is going to play out. It's a tough one, because again, I don't want to pick on Dish. I'd like to see them do better, but they did make some bad decisions along the way financially, and unfortunately it is hurting them now. Now, whether or not in 10 months they might be in a better position with the merger of EchoStar and, the Amazon selling of the Boost Infinite plans, a couple of other things that they're doing to try to boost up, tightening the belt and whatnot. They might be able to make it, but, I don't know. It's for the court to decide, guys. But let me know down below what your thoughts are. Who's right, who's wrong? What should happen here? Do you think T-Mobile should just bite the bullet? Because they were spoiled and they got they got basically favored into the 5G build out with the purchasing of Sprint. Do you think Dish is wrong because they should have been prepared? Do you think their argument is valid, blaming, the pandemic and other issues going on? I mean, they're not wrong, right? The financial market is basically tumbling down. A lot of businesses are being hurt, including T-Mobile and, Verizon and at&t. They're very much worried and concerned about where they're going to be in a year or two, which is why they're basically all trying to do everything they can to keep and maintain customers and get new customers, right? So, Dish isn't 100% wrong about that, but at the same time, what if T-Mobile does hold on to it and then Dish doesn't buy it, and T-Mobile would have wasted all that money, and then additional money will be lost when trying to finally sell it, if there at the time anybody even wants it. Maybe they have to hold on to it even longer, because maybe the opportunity that they have now may not be around in 10 months, So, tough call, basically, is what I'm saying. Let me know down below, guys, the more experienced ones, what are your thoughts on this? All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.